Hello and welcome back to the channel. It's been a couple of weeks since my last confession. I'm currently running in the Hogmore enclosure just outside of Borden, just outside of Farnham, about 10 miles from where I live. It's absolutely beautiful. It's an old tank testing ground which they've turned into a kiddie play park and sort of natural beauty spot. So yeah, the kids are jumping off death slides and building stick towers. And here I am doing a bit of a leg tester. So today's the 11th of March. I ran the Wokingham Half, 26th February, 13 days ago. Got a PB, that was fantastic. 1:35:57, if I can remember correctly. Yeah, it was a tough event. Went for that, felt good, and I was reasonably confident that I would be able to run the Surrey Half, which is tomorrow, a little bit quicker. Because having done a course recce, Surrey Half slightly flatter, it just looked like a better course overall, so I was quite excited about that. And then disaster struck. Basically picked up a slight injury. Now I've probably picked it up, if I'm brutally honest with myself, and I think this is the thing. I think as runners you can get into definitely a pattern of denial about lots of things. Denial you're overtraining, denial you're fitter than you are, and you can certainly have what's called an injury denial at times. And I think, if I'm honest, I picked up the injury probably when I did the first session in my Alpha Flies, which was about 3 weeks ago now, maybe. I'll put a link to it in the video somewhere up here. So it was a great session, but I think just after I put the Alpha Flies on, I was running, I rolled the right foot just as I started running, and basically I had what my wife calls, and my wife's a physio, not a sports physio, which would be really useful. She works as a peds physio, but it's still, you know, she knows her stuff. So anyway, so she said I did what's called an inversion strain, which is when your ankle just foot rolls slightly. So it's not my ankle that's sore per se, it's the it's kind of the muscle around the metatarsal. Anyway, so, but I didn't think anything of it because I was trying out Alpha Flies, adrenaline was pumping, and it was all good. And it wasn't really that bad. I kind of managed it. As I say, wasn't really aware of it. Did a flat out park run the week before the Wokingham Half, all good. But I definitely noticed it that Saturday, and I thought, okay, but I'll be all right. I can certainly get through. It's not stopping me running. And at the end of Wokingham, I was sore. And I think I said at the end of it, at the end of the run, when I got home, I put my foot in an ice bucket. And that was it, primarily to deal with that one particular injury. Generally, I mean, ice is fantastic to help recovery, and that's something I'm definitely going to try and do a little bit more of this year. Generally, is kind of ice myself, get myself back into things. I went for my first run a couple of days after the Wokingham Half, just a really, really slow recovery run to see how the legs were. Legs were trashed, but the foot hurt a bit, not too bad, and I thought I was going to be okay. And then went back to club on the Wednesday, so 4 days after, or 3 days after, and probably ran a touch too fast at club. I was in part of a group. We were running about 9-minute miles, which is normally my sort of very easy pace, but it was I found myself off the back of the group for most of the time, with my friend. We were sort of hanging out the back, and I was slowing the group down. Usually I'm up the front, kind of pushing the group on, if anything. So that was a sign that my legs weren't very well recovered, but actually my foot definitely hurt on that run. And I thought to myself, well, again, I'm probably going to be alright. I can probably still race on it, but I'll now monitor it now. I'll monitor it from that point onwards. And then got round to Sunday, 6 days ago. So I went for 10 easy miles just to see how the legs were. And a couple of K before the end, about 14K, it really hurt. It just sort of, something snapped. And I was like, okay, that's it really. And again, I think if I race tomorrow, I could get through it. I would probably still be able to do a very fast time, maybe even a PB, but I would definitely injure myself. And I just think at this point, you've got to be safe. You've got to think of the long game. So way back, it's about 6-7 episodes ago, I said I would tell you what that marathon is. So I thought, seeing as I'm probably not doing a half tomorrow, I thought I'd tell you today. So now brace yourselves. As marathons go, this is probably in some ways the easiest marathon you could possibly do, or in some ways it could be quite a hard one. We'll just figure it out. So I've entered the Kempton Park Marathon. Part of the Kempton Park Racing Festival at the end of May. I think it's about 26th of May, and I picked that date primarily because it's the first weekend of some school holidays, so I don't have to go to work the next day. In fact, all my long distance races are going to be based around school holidays, so I don't have to go to work the next day. Now the Kempton Park Marathon it's on a race, horse race circuit, I believe. A couple of my friends have done it before. It's on basically a 5k loop, flat as a pancake, and you do 8 laps and that's it, all done and dusted. So I don't have to worry about uneven terrain, I don't have to worry about hills. A couple of friends of mine did it a couple of years ago, and their total elevation was like about 40-50 metres. I mean, it's really nothing, it's flat as a pancake. So it's 8 pot runs and a little bit, and I guess that therein is the only slightly tricky thing about it, is that it's the same again and again and again and again, so 8 times, and you've got to cope with a little bit of a mental battle of that. But headphones are allowed, obviously, so I'm figuring a certain point into the race I'll probably just put my headphones on and sort of zone out and kind of get into it that way. And obviously, because it's a closed circuit, it's very easy for me to have my support crew or wife and kids around to kind of hand me drinks. I can certainly carry the gels I need, but carrying the fluid to get me through a marathon is probably beyond me. So there we go. It's not exciting, it's not exhilarating, it's not tough, but my goal for this year, as I say, is to finish a road marathon. And I've developed, with my failure at the last 2, I definitely would say I've got a bit of a psychological, there's a gorse bush. I've developed a bit of a psychological complex, I think, in my head, because I know I can run the marathon distance. It's not a biggie. The t-shirt I'm wearing now is from the virtual London Marathon, which I did a couple of years ago with my teaching assistant to raise money for my school. And that, as I say, that's the marathon distance. It wasn't a big issue, but obviously what we did there was I ran the first half of it, I stopped, I had lunch, and then carried on and stopped a bit more. It wasn't what I would call a continuous marathon, and so yeah, I'm quite sort of autistic, for want of a better word of saying it. In my head, I need to run a complete marathon to kind of tick that box off, and it would, you know, an organised race as well, not on trails around my house that I picked myself. So, yeah, the goal is to run the Kempton Marathon 11 weeks tomorrow. So I'm 1 week into marathon training already. I've done 0 running this week after last Sunday, so it's not been the greatest preparation. But right now the goal is to get back to regular running, sort of build up strength, do strength and conditioning alongside the running, and basically, get the legs used to filling in distances again, and probably the long runs are going to start to hopefully creep up and up and up. So I might take you out for a bit of a long run one of these days. For now, until then, remember, you are only racing yourself. Cheers.